Hello and welcome to my channel. As this is the very first card that I share from my Kate Bush Tarot, I just wanted to quickly explain what the Kate Bush Tarot is. There is a longer introductory video which I will link below. So the Kate Bush Tarot is a homemade deck. It is a collage deck. I am no artist, so it's more about the idea and the choice of song and the process of creation rather than a finished product. This is not an unboxing, and there won't be a Kate Bush Tarot that I will be selling at any point. The other thing is, so how does it work? So I choose a different Kate Bush song for each card, and in particular a line or two from the lyrics, which I think, and it's a very subjective process, but I think reflects something of the energy of the tarot card. So it's more of an art than a science, and you won't agree with all my choices, but it's a conversation I'm looking forward to having with people, with you too. It's going to be quite a long process. It's a working process, so I've done about 10 or 12. I will release a video each week of a different card, so please subscribe. In each video I'll just briefly go through how I view the card, the meanings of the card, and then the reasoning behind my song choice, and maybe a little bit about Kate Bush's view of the song too. And as I said, it's going to take a while. It's going to take over a year to do this. I'm interested in how my appreciation and relationship with the tarot will deepen over the next coming year, and also whether I will change in that process. So I hope this is something that's going to interest you. Thank you. Okay, let's go. So I've got the Marseille tarot deck here, and it's very much, this design comes from 17th, 18th century Europe, from Catholic countries, and it is an archetype that we've really changed our view of, I think, as the church has become less powerful. I think now we interpret this card quite broadly. So for me, this card doesn't just mean organised religion, it can mean education or any kind of establishment. And it's very much about tradition and authority. It is a number 5, and there are kind of power struggles associated, I think, with that number. We're halfway through the minor arcana with the 5, and it's like life wants to change, life wants to push us forwards to the next stage, but people are cautious, aren't they? And people want the status quo, and institutions can be especially like that. And I'll probably hold this card up a little bit, but of course, when I think of the 5s, I especially think of the 5 of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because here we're inside the church, we're part of the inner fold, we're part of the chosen ones, and here we're excluded. And that is the problem, I suppose, with any kind of institutions or groups, is that it can create outsiders, the people who aren't welcome into the fold. Each month I choose a different tarot deck to work with, and my tarot deck this month is, I'll just move these out of the way, Deviant Moon. And so I probably have to move this a little bit so you can see. And I absolutely love this portrayal of the deviant, the Hierophant. And it's very much about that kind of negative connotations we might have with organized religion in particular. And what I'll just read what Patrick Valenza says about this card. He says, "The Hierophant suppresses the truth and turns joy into shame. His locked knees symbolize his closed-mindedness and the apprehensive position he has towards sexuality. The conformity he preaches, has petrified his wings and those of his followers, rendering all incapable of free flight." So there's that tension there, isn't there, that is suggested by this archetype. And I think one thing that I have done for the last 18 months, 2 years, is I keep a tarot diary and kept it quite religiously to know. So I use that word religiously, and that's quite interesting, isn't it, in terms of the Hierophant? Yeah, so I've kept a tarot diary, and so I can notice when cards come up. And for me, I would say, before keeping the diary, that the Hierophant was one that I found particularly hard to interpret because I'm not part of an organised religion. But I have been doing a master's degree in creative writing, and the Hierophant came up for me, interestingly, one day when I suggested a neurodivergent writing group, because lots of people on my course, like me, were saying that they were autistic or had ADHD and had particular challenges with the course. And so I thought this sort of informal group would be a good way for us in a safe environment to discuss those challenges together and to sort of support each other. So if you like, I suppose I was feeling a little bit of an outsider at that point. And I was surprised because we were met with opposition from another student, and the opposition shocked me. And the university itself wasn't particularly proactive in encouraging us, I thought. There was kind of a little bit of, I don't know whether to use the word defensiveness, because of course this was coming from a student, the opposition to the group. But it seemed like there was very much a Hierophant energy there, that keep the status quo, keep things as they are, and a lack of acknowledgement that for some people that status quo results in them feeling marginalized or excluded or not being able to be as involved. So that I've also had the Hierophant, I should say, when I've had really good tutoring experiences and really good supportive mentors. So it's an interesting card for me. The next one that I was going to show, so not that one, is from the Haindl tarot. And so I'll put these ones out of the way. The Haindl tarot has a beautiful energy, I think. Hermann Haindl spent 4 years as a prisoner of war in Russia during the Second World War, and very much traumatized by that experience. I think he created this deck as part of his own healing journey. And it says, so it shows 3 generations here. It shows the grandfather, the father, and this head here is the little boy. So it's about knowledge coming through the generations. And I think it says an important thing or positive side to tradition, in that tradition and organizations and establishment, if those structures are good, they can be a check on power. And I think, you know, while I'm learning, and certainly as a poet and as a writer, I'm very much kind of indebted to other poets, living or dead, and learning from them. So there is this balance, isn't there? There's a balance between respecting our ancestors or wisdom or people that have gone before us, and learning from others, but also not being too constricted or feeling suppressed or repressed by that power. Just two more that I wanted to share with you. I love this card. This is from the Sweet Twilight card. Sweet Twilight. I'll just zoom in a little bit, actually. Okay. And this is a beautiful. I think it shows kind of the curiosity involved. You've got this child here, and you've got a cat, a bird, a nest of eggs. There's this sense, and this Hierophant here, who is almost like this Willy Wonka figure, and there's a sense of wonder and excitement and learning and a connection to nature, which you could say is like our greatest teacher, I suppose. And this again shows the positive side to mentoring, which is encouraging the child really, I think, to engage with her own curiosity. Probably you could say very much different to how schooling is and how we experience schooling for most people. And I will talk at the end a little bit. There's a really good quotation from Kate Bush about her own schooling, which I found fascinating. Now, lastly, I just wanted to talk quickly about, this is from the Osho Zen Tarot, not much to see here. It's nothingness or no-thingness, and it's about when we let go of beliefs or kind of the monkey mind and all the thoughts that come from external sources. We're aware of consciousness, and I think Osho is making that distinction really between that innate wisdom we have when we connect to spirit or our soul, and kind of what we inherit, the beliefs we inherit from others, from our families, from school, from our society, which we have to unpick and which can be really unhelpful. And so knowledge is something that we always need to think about, to deal with critically. Otherwise we become closed-minded and dogmatic, and we just want to defend our views. And I mean, that I started off, I suppose, saying this seems quite an old-fashioned archetype in a way, because we've got the Pope here. But how relevant is the whole idea about keeping an open mind and not being too entrenched with our views now in today's society? Right, so let me just talk about the songs. I should get rid of this book, I think. Let me just talk about the songs that I considered as possibles. And yeah, it was the first one, and I think I was very much influenced by that Sweet Twilight card here, is Cloud Busting. Right, okay. So I love this song. It's one of my favourite Kate Bush songs, and I would talk about this more because I have chosen it for another card. But in the end, I felt that it didn't quite didn't quite explore enough that tension between what I've just discussed in the Hierophant, between kind of knowledge and that thirst for knowledge, and also that restriction that we can get from church and from the schools and things. So this was chosen for, this was ideal for another card. So that wasn't chosen. The other one, if I show the album, you might be able to guess, is Them Heavy People. And so you probably can't see that because the font is so pale, but this song is kind of, I think Kate Bush says she was listening to her father and her brother talk about Gurdjieff and his ideas, and she was getting excited by those ideas. And again, I think it's more suitable for another card, and it didn't quite have the tension that I wanted. So you might have guessed this already if you've seen the thumbnail. So let me show you the card. Let's put it so you can see it. Oh, right, I could have it like the right way. Okay, let me just move back a little bit. So this, there we go. So for this card, I have chosen, some say that knowledge is something that you never have, because I felt that that particular lyric represented, so I mean, that's kind of the Osho view, isn't it? But the whole song, which is Sat in Your Lap, is very much about that thirst for knowledge. And it's that tension between, in some ways she's saying knowledge is a good thing, and we can't be lazy, we've got to pursue it. But in some ways, knowledge is always elusive. We never quite find it either. And so I just bring it back down again. Here I have, and it's very faint because it's from an old book, was a picture of the cedar of Lebanon. And I chose this tree because it can live to 2,000 years. So I liked that kind of relationship with tradition. And also, it was used, apparently the wood was used in the Temple of Solomon. So I loved that kind of link. Around this is from an icon book, and I think it's like 15th century icon of St. Nicholas. And St. Nicholas is often portrayed with you probably can't see if I can move it. So it's a little bit dark, so you probably can't see it, but he's often portrayed with a large forehead because he's supposed to be so knowledgeable. So, and he's the patron saint of students. So he seemed a really good choice. And I love this. This is from the video Sat in Your Lap. They don't always, I've noticed when I'm choosing, the photos don't always fit the actual songs. So I'm choosing the photos more, do they fit the archetype? Do they fit the card, rather than to be actually, are they contemporary with the song choice, if you see what I mean. But I like this position because she's like in a yoga position, and she's got her palms open as if to receive something. And I keep changing my mind because I sometimes think, well, should I put something in her palms? But I quite like them being empty like this. And it's a song that is a song I've always loved. I particularly loved it. I was at university studying law, not really sure, or not really enjoying it, and kind of disappointed because I wasn't enjoying it. I'd kind of built up, I'd, worked really hard to do a law degree, and then disappointed that it seemed so dry and boring, and what was I doing? And of course, in Centennial lap, she's got the lyric, I want to be a lawyer, but I really can't be bothered. So I really remember singing that all through my 3 years of university. I think I was just going to say what Kate Bush herself said about her school, because I love this. It kind of surprised me because her stage persona seems really confident. I mean, I know she's very private, but her stage persona seems very confident from a young age. But this is what she said about school. I became very shy at school. It laid some very heavy inhibitions on me. I wasn't exactly bullied, but there were people who picked on me and gave me a very hard time. I was very thin and younger than most in my class, so I was rather like the run to the litter. I'd get hit occasionally, but nothing that heavy, and I never fought back. It was a very cruel environment, and I was a loner. And yeah, I really identify with that, and I'm sure lots of you do. You identify with that too. That feeling of very heavy inhibitions on me, I think I still struggle with that now. And the older I've got and the more creative I feel I am becoming, the more I've noticed kind of the restrictions. So we want to learn, as I said, you're hungry to learn as much as possible, but there comes a point when you realize, especially if that learning is coming from a school or an institution or whatever, that you also have to break free of it and find your own voice and find your own way of doing things. That quote comes from Kate Bush's encyclopedia, which is online and is a brilliant source of information. I will link that down below. This beautiful picture comes from the John Carter book. I do another video where I introduce the series and I talk about my sources, and I will link that as well. And I think that is useful for if you want to know more about my thinking behind the deck as a whole and what I plan to do. I will also link the video, and if you do watch the video, read the comments. It's not at the top anymore, but a few comments down is from one of the dancers, one of the dancing minotaurs in the video, and relating his personal experience, and it's really fascinating, so definitely read that. I think it's interesting that she's included the Minotaur in that video. I talk more about the Ariadne myth in my Red Threads tarot review, which I will also link. But that is very much about, if you think of the labyrinth as something there which we follow to try and find kind of our inner knowledge, or it's like a quest, but also the Minotaur represents maybe a shadow aspect of ourselves that we're scared of too. So knowledge, there's a thirst for knowledge, but knowledge can be threatening. We don't quite know what we'll find, and I think that is possibly why we stop being curious, we stop searching, we settle in our beliefs, because then we feel secure and we feel safe. So thank you so much for watching and watching this far. Do subscribe. I will release one of these videos once a week. I'll mix it up a bit. I'm not doing it in order, so sometimes it'll be major arcana, sometimes minor arcana. And please comment and let me know what you think. Would you have chosen the Centennial app for Hierophant? And maybe if you're thinking of doing your own deck, who would you choose? Have you got a musician or a writer or TV show, or what would you choose, or an artist, painter? What would you choose to do your own tarot deck on? And I am going to do a video about what I think are the benefits of doing your own tarot deck, and how that can be a really, not just a way to learn the tarot, but it can be transformational. So thank you again. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know your ideas. Bye bye.